Belgian authorities say they've foiled a terror attack at Brussels' main train station after shooting a suspect and carrying out a controlled explosion on his bomb belt. France's new president starts following through on his pledge to clean up politics with 2 surprise cabinet resignations. The new government will be unveiled on Wednesday. And Islamic State group fighters on the back foot in the Syrian city of Raqqa as fierce fighting and sniper battles rage. We'll have the latest from our correspondent who's on the ground. Good to have you with us. I'm Belle Lupton here with a roundup of the news from across the globe. Well, tonight we begin in Brussels, where the federal prosecutor has confirmed in the last few hours that he's treating an explosion that took place earlier as an attempted terrorist attack. Soldiers shot dead a suspect in the city centre and performed a controlled explosion of the bomb belt he was wearing. Emerald Maxwell brings us up to date.
This is Brussels Central train station at about 8:30 p.m. Moments after a suspected suicide bomber detonated a small explosive. This man was working in the station at the time.
I went down the stairs to go back to the dock where I had to go, and there I heard someone shouting, and then at one point he shouted Allahu Akbar and blew up the suitcase he had. From there I continued down, giving the alert to evacuate as many people as possible. And there he was, just behind me, 2 meters away from the stairs, and he still had a belt on him.
Minutes later, troops stormed the station, shot and killed the man. A bomb squad is checking for any more hazards.
The suspect has been neutralized by the military that were present at the scene immediately after the explosion. There were no other victims. This incident is considered as a terrorist attack.
Police cleared a large area around the station, evacuating the capital's Grand Place Square, which was thronging with people on a balmy evening in the Belgian capital.
I was in the Carrefour shop just next to the central station. I was about to pay and they closed the shop. We were told to stay inside the shop. They blocked all the entries and 2 military came in. They secured the perimeter.
The attack follows 2 incidents involving extremists in London and Paris this week. Belgium has been on high alert since suicide bombers killed 32 people on the underground metro and at the airport last year.
Well, that attempted attack in Brussels is just the latest in a series of terror incidents across Europe over the last days and weeks. On Monday here in Paris, another attempt was foiled by police who shot dead an attacker after he drove a car loaded with guns and a gas canister into a police van on the Champs-Élysées. Catherine Clifford sheds light on the man behind that would-be attack.
The body of the attacker lies on the ground as police investigate his car.
Today at around 3:40, we had a squadron of riot police drive down the Champs-Élysées. A Renault Megane drove past on the right and struck the vehicle at the head of the squadron. The Renault Megane caught fire and soldiers started to intervene.
A passerby captured the immediate aftermath of the ramming on video. No bystanders or police officers were hurt in what Interior Minister Gérard Collomb described as an attempted attack. He said the car was loaded with weapons and gas canisters.
Once again, the security forces in France have been targeted with this attempted attack on the Champs-Élysées. There were some weapons, some explosives in this car, which could have caused the car to blow up.
Bomb disposal experts were sent to the scene to make sure the car posed no further threat. Anti-terrorism prosecutors have opened an investigation. A police source said the man had been known to security services. The incident occurred just a short walk from the Élysée Presidential Palace and the US Embassy, close to the Grand Palais Exhibition Hall. The police and the army have been repeatedly targeted by extremists in France. This comes 2 months after a policeman was shot and killed and 2 others injured, also on the Champs-Élysées, in an attack claimed by the Islamic State group.
As France's counter-terrorism department deals with this latest incident, the country's new government is taking shape, with some surprise changes. 2 French ministers quit their jobs in 24 hours, all part of President Emmanuel Macron's campaign pledge to clean up politics. Ellen Gainsford reports.
It was supposed to be a minor reshuffle, but Emmanuel Macron will have to replace at least 2 key ministerial positions. Several of his cabinet members are being investigated for financial misconduct. An awkward start for the president, who pledged to remove sleaze from French politics.
It could have been much more damaging. It is just that in the beginning of Emmanuel Macron's presidency, the electorate looks to be extremely sympathetic to Emmanuel Macron.
Sylvie Goulard stepped down as Minister of Defense this Tuesday, saying she wants to prove her innocence. It's a difficult time for Modem members who've now joined Macron's government. The party's accused of misuse of funds for fake parliamentary work, paying employees in France using funds meant to be for its MEPs' assistants. Sylvie Goulard and Marielle de Sarnez, Minister for European Affairs, are both implicated. Another headache for Emmanuel Macron. Richard Ferrand is also under investigation for financial misconduct. No longer Minister for Territorial Planning, he's been asked to lead Macron's Republic on the Move party in Parliament. He insists the move is not a punishment.
When people put their trust in you, when those who voted for you ask for your ideas, well, I see that more as an honor.
The Prime Minister also says the new role has nothing to do with the investigation into Richard Ferrand.
He could have stayed as a minister. The rule I've put in place is that if you're charged, then you have to leave the government. When you haven't been charged with anything, you can stay.
Ferrand says he won't hide behind his political immunity. He expects the investigation to clear him of any wrongdoing.
A French journalist has been killed in the Iraqi city of Mosul while filming a report on the battle to retake the city from the Islamic State group. Stéphane Villeneuve died from injuries he sustained after a mine exploded. A Kurdish reporter died instantly in the blast. 2 other French journalists were also injured. Kurdish leader Massoud Barzani expressed his condolences to the families of the victims.
I was deeply saddened to hear about that, because I've known Bakhtiar Haddad. I want to express my condolences to his family and also to the family of the French journalist, who also passed away this morning. So we should be strong and express our condolences to their families for their loss.
Well, across the border in Syria, Islamic State group fighters are also on the back foot, mainly in the face of a US-backed Kurdish-led coalition. IS's regional capital, Raqqa, is under siege. Our correspondent, James Andre, is there.
We were in a neighborhood called Romania. In Romania, there are absolutely no residents whatsoever. We also witnessed a scene where they spotted a dubious car, a car they thought could be a suicide vehicle, and indeed they were about to take care of that as we were leaving the position. So indeed, if you like, a very tense calm in the city, which is completely phantomatic because there's no one in there apart from the small group of fighters and the Islamic State group militants that you cannot see. They are hidden in the buildings, ready to open fire on any enemy they can actually spot. And, well, indeed, a lot of fighting going on. But as I'm telling you, this really very much is a sniper battle.
Our correspondent James Andre in Raqqa. Well, as the conflict continues in Syria, France and Russia's foreign ministers have met in Moscow to discuss the Syrian war, as well as the situation in Ukraine and troubled relations between Russia and the EU. Speaking after the talks, the 2 were conciliatory, but tensions remained apparent.
I can only express my regret about the anti-Russian obsession of our American colleagues. It goes beyond all limits. Poroshenko cannot fulfill his obligations according to the Minsk agreements, but sanctions are imposed against Russia. There is a very complicated process underway in Syria. Only Russia is guilty, and of course Assad's regime.
We are not looking for Russia's isolation from the rest of Europe, nor its economic weakness. We seek to work together pragmatically, concretely, to resolve common problems. Neither Russia nor France have an interest in the tensions that are developing now. The end of the Syrian civil war is a priority after 6 years of war and massacre by the Assad regime. Stability is for us a national security issue.
You heard there from the French and before that the Russian foreign ministers, and their meeting comes against a backdrop of strained diplomatic relations between Russia and the US too. Russia has ended critical operations communications with the US after the American military brought down an Iranian-made drone and a Syrian warplane over Syria. Elizabeth Walsh reports.
Hostilities between the United States and Russian Federation are escalating rapidly. Hours after General Joe Dunford said Washington was making all diplomatic and military efforts to restore deconfliction, American-led forces destroyed a pro-regime drone in Syria. Just Sunday, the United States shot down a Syrian jet, the first time it has brought down a manned aircraft since 1999. Moscow accused Washington of failing to notify it of the decision to bring down the plane, despite the fact that Russian aircraft were airborne at the time. Washington cited self-defense. Russia then cut off a critical military hotline with the United States and announced that all flying objects, including planes and drones, detected west of the Euphrates River would be targeted by Russian forces. The end in communications, which helped to avoid aircraft collision, is a threat to collaboration and security in the region and prompted Australia to suspend all aerial operations in Syria.
First of all, we've worked very hard on deconfliction, and it's important to point out why. For the last 8 months, we worked on deconfliction with the Russian Federation and pro-regime forces through the Russians. The purpose was to make sure that our air crews were safe, to make sure our personnel on the ground were safe, and to make sure we could prosecute the Defeat ISIS campaign in Syria, which is the reason why we're in Syria.
Raqqa is at the center of a major campaign to purge the Islamic State group from its self-declared caliphate. Bordered on the south by the Euphrates River, it is barely east of the warning line drawn by the Russian government on Monday. In addition to suspending the hotline, Moscow reported that it would begin tracking all American-led coalition aircraft. The Pentagon has already moved some of its planes out of concerns for safety.
Portuguese officials say they're gradually containing the deadly wildfires in the centre of the country. 64 people have been killed and 160 others injured so far, and criticism is mounting over the disaster response. Emerald Maxwell has more.
As wildfires continue to ravage Portugal's forests, water-dropping aircraft from Spain, France and Italy have joined over 1,000 firefighters to battle the flames, burning since Saturday. Officials say they have most of the blaze under control. But with temperatures expected to reach around 38 degrees Celsius this week, there are fears that fires could reignite.
If the wind turns, it's going to be dangerous. The situation is improving, but it all depends on the heat and the wind.
Criticism is mounting over the response to the fire. Dozens of people died in their cars while trying to flee on this highway. Portugal's Prime Minister has led calls into why emergency services failed to close the N236. Survivors claim that gendarmes told them the road was safe to use. With an area nearly 3 times the size of Lisbon affected, it's Portugal's largest ever fire. The search effort to find and identify victims continues, as authorities fear the death toll could rise further.
And we're going to end this bulletin with a rare event. So rare, in fact, that Moscow's deputy mayor raced over to field questions from the public about it. It happened in Moscow Zoo, and as you might have guessed by now, it's not a political event, but rather a baby Asian elephant that's been presented to the public for the first time. Little Philemon, as he's called, is 1 month old already, and he weighs, not so little, 90 kilograms. Born Born in captivity, he's increased the elephant family at the zoo to 5 and the number of elephants across Russian zoos to 11. And that's it from me for this bulletin. I'll be back in 15 minutes with all the latest. Do join me then if you can.